Let's talk about Teams. So once again, we are together and we're going to talk about some of the most spoken features in Microsoft Teams Rooms right now.
Indeed.
So if I say front row.
Yeah, front row is people is just like, is it people sitting in the front row or what is it? How many people can we have down there? Some of you might have seen the layout already and some don't know what it is, but they talk about it because it's a buzzword at the moment. But what does it actually mean?
Yeah.
So it is, we both have been testing out front row, playing around with it. I think first time I saw it was back in August or something actually.
Yeah.
And now it's something you can select on the MTRs if you want to have it on front row, and now it's enabled on Android as far as I know.
Yeah, so in the next release it will be on Android as well. So as of now it's been on Windows for quite a while.
Yeah.
On the native Teams Rooms, and next one is then Android or the feature. Probably not the feature as Jimmy would have told, like it's just the layout. I can't say like he can do it, but so yeah, front row is coming to Android as well, and it's basically a layout that will change the way that we have the usage of the screen.
Exactly, and for me, it's I think front row, I don't get that much out of it as I wanted to. I thought I would be more included in the meeting with the people that's joining from Find, and I don't see it as so much because we have, let's say we have a 16:9 screen. 65 inch in a meeting room, because we still need to have the content in there, and then we cannot size up the people that's talking, etc. We have the content in the middle. That's actually not working for me, and that's why we're also going to talk about single screen, dual screen, 21:9 versus 32:9 as well. But for me, front row is in February at ISE. I was so lucky to see a signature room where they have put it up with the spatial audio. And when they did that, it totally makes sense, because I can see where Microsoft is going with front row, because we have all the people at the bottom.
Yeah.
And when a person is speaking to me from the left, I hear the audio from the left. And if this person is speaking to me from the right, I hear the audio coming from the right. And then it makes sense to have them down there, and it was including. But what I found out, because you have shown me some PowerPoint slides you made where you changed the room layout based on front row, because it makes sense you're sitting in front of the persons when you have them down here as well. And one of the things I actually found out was in the other end, in Find, it was actually more included in the meeting, because you will face people in another way, and this is some of the good stuff that front row has brought with it, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things about front row is that Microsoft showed something else than where we have front row today.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of expectations about what was front row. It was like capturing each and every person within the room, put them down into the front row and remove the background.
Yeah, and maybe in the future an avatar as well, right? So
yeah. So basically, front row is just a layout. It's basically just putting each frame in the bottom, and which is, if you sit from home, you will have one square. If you have a meeting room, that will have one square, and that's basically where we see the issue, is that then we are not really equal anymore.
Nope. So, but I think some of the future stuff coming with intelligent cameras will bring front row to an equal situation towards the home office, if you can say it like that.
Yeah, exactly. So just to explain, like, so front row, when it came out at the start, it was like raise hands on the left-hand side, chat on the right-hand side, and there was like a presentation in the middle of the screen. And as you told previously, the presentation was quite a bit smaller than normally.
Exactly.
Which from my point would be, we need bigger screens.
Yeah.
But that was one of the things, at least.
And Microsoft, they came up where they have made this idea about 21:9 or 32:9, at least on the Windows MTR. and it makes sense to make a bigger screen and another format on it. But 21 by 9, I actually cannot see why we should go that way, because it's still not that high a screen. So for me, it doesn't make sense in a larger meeting rooms. I prefer to have a 32 by 9 then, because when I'm not in a front row, then it will be better. Or if I have the content there, I still have the person I'm speaking to high up, because I often see people actually are joining with the laptops in the meeting as well, and they have the content presented on the laptop. So having the content up there, and then the larger people sitting from home be a bigger person in a larger setup, that's really something I kind of like, having it in a 32 by 9 setup. And also there's a bunch of stuff about EDID and so on that's easy to do with 32 by 9, but so for me, dual screen is the way to go for front row. I know it's capable of doing a single screen as well, but I have not that many requests by it. It's more or less dual screen setup, front row.
It kind of also makes sense if you, for instance, like the rule are front row works on a single screen, it works on a dual screen, it works in 21 by 9 or 32 by 9, which is basically 2 screens. But if you go with a single screen, then there is X amount of people that are having the spot in the bottom.
Exactly,
And that is, as I remember, 4 people. If you go in a dual screen or a 32 by 9, then it's up to 9 people, I guess. So of course, if you go with a single screen, there will be some limitation on how many people that you can be there.
And it makes sense as well, because you don't have the height to put that many people in, because you need to have the person you're speaking with in a certain height before you can have an interaction with them. So.
So I'll guess also about the usage of the screen. So when people ask me about front row, I'm basically more talking about when does it make sense to have front row. It doesn't make sense to have front row in all the meeting rooms. You need to think about where it makes sense, because if you go into a front row layout, and we were just on a call, even though we were in 2 different meeting rooms, there was a very, very small amount of the screen estate that we will actually be using. So it makes sense when we are several people in there. And when we use the presentation, maybe the raise hand or the chat function. So
they are really nice that they are on the screen, and I can see who has been raising hands, who has typed something into the chat, etc. It really makes sense to have it on the screen. I love the layout they have made here, and front row is not completely there yet. I think they're still missing some part of spatial audio as well. But when it will be fully released, as I see it, I think there will be something you make maybe 10% of your meeting rooms, make it like a front row room, because it will be more if we need to have a workshop kind of room as well. So you need to be in front of the person, have a chat with them, and not like a normal meeting room where also we need to interact with the people in the room. So
So one of the things at front row, like you said previously, is like we need to front the screen. As it is right now, at least. So in that case, then we would front the camera, and that will make it so much easier for the camera to capture us. And basically what it means is that when we front the camera, then we kind of speak with the people remotely instead of us sitting around the table here and talk with each other.
It's more included for them. So they're gonna feel they're more not just a fly on the wall, right? So they're more in the meeting, and that's I totally see where Microsoft want to go with this, because we have many people today working from home, and if we need to include them more, we need to do something like this with front row, where we can be more hybrid in a way with them.
So the consideration is more like, where do we need to install front row? Or choose that layout, and should it be the default layout? in each room? No, I don't think so. I think we need to make sure that this is the right setup for having front row.
Because it also comes down to furnitures.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you cannot just put front row in every room as you're stating, because we often see a room with 40 people, 40 chairs in, and it doesn't make sense to have front row in a room like that. Otherwise, we need a really large screen. And that's the thing today, you can make screens in every sizes with LEDs.
That's true.
And it's suitable for 32 by 9, 21 by 9, but I think the most part it would be 32 by 9, and it would be a large screen for that.
Yeah.
But it could also be a large 96 inch or something like that screen, 105 inch. Everybody's talking about the new 105 inch LFD screens.
Yeah.
But does we need front row? Because it's a huge amount of money to put onto a meeting room that you will actually be able to do with, let's say, a projector or LED wall or something like that. So it needs to make sense in the room, because you don't get it straight away, the benefit from the room, if you do it in all the rooms. But if you're just redesigning some of your rooms, you should definitely consider make them as a front row room, a signature room, as Microsoft is stating.
Yeah. I hear a lot of people go with the 21 by 9 or asking about that.
Yeah.
And I kind of agree with you mostly, not always. But one of the benefits I see, especially with 21 by 9, is that then I will have the presentation in the center of the screen, compared to if I go with a dual screen, or I go with a 32 by 9. In that case, then I would have like the presentation slightly off-centered.
I agree on that one, but again, if you do it like that, then you will have some people in the front row layout at the bottom that's not able to be seen by everybody sitting on each side of the table. So there's always limitations, and yes, 21 by 9 is working great, but still it's a 105 inch and 210 inch probably. Then you could have adopted for 146 inch or 130 inch LED wall instead, and maybe let's say two 86 or 85 inch screens side by side instead, and have 32 by 9 and just raise them higher up. Then it's.
So is this more from the price perspective, or is it more from the how does it feel to have a meeting on a 21 by 9 compared to a 32 by 9?
No, it's I think price-wise, 21 by 9 is, you cannot get the screen higher than 21 by 9, right? So it's the limitation is the height of the room. Yeah. So I actually prefer to have a larger screen that will fit in the height, because 105 inch height is not too far away in 21 by 9 compared to 16 by 9 in 90.
Oh, in the height.
In the height, right? Yeah. And it's always the limitation of the height compared to how big a content setup we can have. Yeah. So I'd rather have a front row on a larger screen that's 16 by 9 than have a front row on a 21 by 9 105 inch.
Okay.
So that's stick with what we have today and just run front row on that one.
Yeah.
But maybe purchase a bigger screen for it, because the height limitations is still the same.
Yeah.
So
just to make sure that 21 by 9, that is not a requirement for running front row. It can be done on both a single screen, on a dual screen. So what about LFD versus LED? I mean, of course you have the flexibility on LED, but what else?
You have more flexibilities on the LEDs. We see today, I see today in the market that there's more demands for LEDs, because they're capable of running a higher amount of light from the LED, because it's like a beam, and they're putting the light towards you, and it's not a projector that's projecting on the screen, and you will receive the reflection of it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's more the beam coming from the screen that's actually the benefit of it. And the larger screens they have, yeah, the cost of LED is going down and down and down. So it's not like a projector is the only solution today. You have the LED as well.
Yeah.
They could also be running a projector solution for the larger screens. But
So my main concern about projectors is always like the sharpness,
yeah,
especially when you go with what's it called, the projectors that is really close to the screen.
yeah, short throw projectors
yeah.
where they have this like a snorkel where they reflect the lights in
Yeah.
with some mirrors, and you actually lose some light on this way of doing it,
Yeah.
on some manufacturers at least.
And the sharpness in the corners normally.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that will be my main concern, of course, also for, as you said, the light impact, that it will be so much easier to get the...
I actually think they've solved the problems about the sharpness in a way. Some manufacturers at least, but really it's all about the light to the room, because people love to be in a meeting room where you have a lot of light and windows open and everything.
Yeah.
I do the same, right? And so I prefer a screen because I don't have to think about pulling the curtains down, etc.
Yeah.
And of course you can get a bigger projector, but that also means more noise to it because a projector is run
Yeah.
by a fan, etc. So, but it is capable of doing it. But I don't see it as, at least here in the Nordics, as the main thing to go with projector solutions.
So normally, if you look at LED, they're quite high in brightness.
Yeah.
So how can I make sure I don't get sunburn?
There's some manufacturers has sensors you actually attach to them.
Yeah.
And they could, based on the light in the room, they can turn up and down for the light coming from the diodes.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually straight out of the box, so you don't have to program anything. Some other things you could do is, it's basically a screen, so you can turn down the brightness, and if you turn down the brightness on LED diode, it will last even longer than it's stated, right? Another thing is, we actually see you have a lower power consumption on a LED screen compared to some projectors, because if they show black content, for instance, they will not shut down the diode, but they will not put as much current into the diode as they will on a color, right? So power consumption-wise, it looks like that there's in favor of the LEDs at the moment.
Yeah.
So
can we say anything about life cycle on an LED?
No, because
We can say a lot, but
we can say a lot about it. It's all down to the manufacturing hardware you look at, but most of them stage like 50,000 hours, etc. Right? But I think it will be changed before that even, because and it's not about sustainability or anything, but there's just some companies, they move, etc. and they will buy a new LED, a new screen. So.
Yeah, and they don't need to throw it away. They can maybe take the usage of the panels and build another thing. So
they can make it a signage screen or whatever, right? So that's. I think that's it.
Perfect. So that was the session about Front Row. So if you like sessions like this, please follow us. And wherever you see us, and hopefully we will see you soon. Bye.